Welcome to the JH Motorsports, how to set up your computer or laptop to flash with our software. Starting here on the page in an email here, I had our sales staff send over the exact email you will receive as a customer of ours. This is just in my Gmail. You can see the subject here, tells you what it is, and we gave me a silly name here. So in the email you'll see there's 2 zip files to download. This is the JHM browser. And then inside here is everything for the VPN. You're going to need the VPN installed and working before you can use the browser in order to do the actual flashing. Most of our problems are in this process, getting this installed correctly for flashing. So if you follow these instructions I'm going to show you on this Windows 10 64-bit machine, you shouldn't have any issue. So besides these 2 zip files, the browser and the VPN, you will see an attachment with a text file that'll have your username and password to log into our VPN and into the browser. You gotta remember they're 2 separate logins. That's the key. 2 separate logins. So you can see I've already downloaded them to speed this up. We got 2 zip files and we got the text file. I'm just gonna go ahead and show in the folder. At this point you would then extract the zip files. Windows by default, you should be able to just right click and extract all, which is what I did to get these. Right click, extract all, do that to the browser and the VPN. You can also use 7-zip and other third-party apps, but the key is to get it unzipped so you can get the actual files. You'll see the text document is here, exact same thing you'll get. This is my sample username and password for the VPN, and then the sample username and password for the actual browser. So once again, you got to connect to the VPN, which gets us on the network, and then you go ahead and run the browser to actually do the flashing. You also need to make sure drivers are installed correctly for the cable, the flashing cable. So you'll see they're the same in the sample account. Yours should be the same as well. We want to keep it simple. So everything's done. This walks you through it, right? And so now we have it. We got the VPN. This one's buried a few folders down. Probably been zipped a few times. So what you'll see here is some folders and some basic a Word document here. Basically there's 3 different folders for installing everything. You have this XP in Windows 2000. That's older computers. Those aren't as relevant these days. Those are a little more straightforward for the driver because you just install this and the driver's done. You install this for the VPN client and you're done. And that's the Word document on how to install it if you get stuck. Very simple, straightforward on the XP. It's the newer ones that people seem to struggle with. We have 2 basic newer ones. We have Windows 7, 8, 10, Vista, all lumped together for 64-bit. And then we have Windows 7, 8, 10, and Vista 32-bit. There is a big difference with the 32-bit and the 64-bit. Most people are going to have 64-bit operating systems. Some will have 32. You'll see that also in here we don't have 8 and 10 in here. That's fine. Basically Windows 7, Vista, 8, 10 are all the same. The only difference is 32-bit or 64-bit. Take note on the 32-bit, you actually need a different VPN client. Keep that in mind. It's in there. Those are not very common. This example is on a 64-bit computer, which is what most people are going to have. Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, or Vista 64-bit. So you'll see all the different software in here and everything we need to install. We also have the walkthrough right here, which walks you through it. So the big key first is we need to get the VPN installed, and then we need to install the driver. Another thing you'll notice is, hey, how do I know if mine's 64-bit or 32-bit? Well, on Windows 10 and most of the newer ones, you can just type in this PC, or you'll see this PC icon, or on older ones it might say my computer. So you're just basically trying to find your PC settings. This is the way I like to get there. If you look, when you right click and go to properties on it, you're going to pull this window up, which I had already had open, and you can see where it would go. Control panel, system and security, then system. But that's the way I like to go, is this PC or my computer, right click it. You'll see that I'm Windows 10, and you will see that I am 64-bit right here, 64-bit. This is the key. So Windows 7, 8, 8, and 10, and Vista are all the same, 64-bit, and then the 32-bit is a whole separate thing. So keep that in mind. Okay, now that we've identified this computer as Windows 10 64-bit, we're going to make sure we're in that 64-bit folder. If it was a 32-bit, you would go in there. 64-bit, 7, 8, and 10. We install the VPN. That is this file right here, MVC64. It's the 64-bit version. The 32-bit version is in this folder, most likely due to just making it simpler for customers who possibly had trouble deciding if they had 32 or 64-bit. But we showed you that earlier, so hopefully that'll no longer be a problem. So that already double-clicked it, got it started. Now we're going to walk through the steps. And next, accept the license. Next, install. Okay, the install's continued some. Just wanted to show you there was another prompt that popped up, said, do you want to allow changes to your computer? Once again, you need to allow it to trust Nortel. That's the company who makes the VPN and the VPN software. So I'm going to continue to let it install. Should plug along. I'm using a pretty basic computer here to hopefully resemble what you're going to have. This is just a standard Pentium processor and a regular hard drive. Okay, the installation completed. Hit finish. You'll see that's installed. It's asking us to restart. So I will be clicking restart and I will resume in a second. Now that we've installed the 64-bit VPN that was in the VPN folder, under the 64-bit folder, this right here, the NVC64, the Nortel, we now need to run it. See the Nortel VPN client? That's it there. So we're going to run it for the first time. When we run it, we're going to want to make sure that we have the text document that was emailed to us, or you, that is, the customer. And this is going to have what you need. It may not prompt you right away, but you need to run through the profile wizard to get it set up. You can just call this JHM, JHM Flash, whatever makes sense. IPsec, what we're going to stay on. Destination is VPN. Sorry, I'm not used to this keyboard. So vpn.jhmotorsports.com. If there are any typos, it will not work. That's where it's going to connect to. Username and password. It does prompt you to enter your username and password, which is under our VPN login section of our text document. And just go ahead and paste it in so we don't have any issues. It's not going to save the password. No, we say no to that. No, we're not dialing it first because you're on the internet. No, you don't want to launch any applications. No to this. This is what you're going to change. No keep alives. This is key. No keep alives. Don't forget to change that. Everything else so far has been default. And that's it. We hit finish. So this is a good step to stop. Make sure everything works. Hit connect. Looks like we had an issue with the account. So you'll see that authentication failure. Did this on purpose. That way you can see if the username and password work. And you'll say that it'll say authentication failure if you're not using the right username and password. So contact us in that case. I'm going to go ahead and type in the correct information and get it pulling up now. Okay, now that we're connected correctly, this is key. You will get this. It says APR Secure VPN. We contract through them for this service to get our software onto your car. So if you don't see this, you're not connected, and you have to click the accept close. Then you're truly connected. If you don't get that banner, something went wrong. And you also know you're connected when you see this. Down here in the right-hand corner. Sometimes it gets lumped into these. So you always got to look for it. If you go here and hit status, you'll see it. You'll see it moving data in and out. So this is good. We're on the network. That's the key. So now we can move forward with getting the cable driver installed and getting the browser installed. So step one, big chunk, VPN complete. Couple things for VPNs if you run into problems. If maybe when you pull up the browser, you're getting ready to flash, further on, what you can run into is you can get a invalid tunnel options error before you're on. Like when I had that error for authentication, that might mean you got too many open connections going because you didn't close it correctly, whatnot. So good time to just reboot your computer, make sure everything's okay, and try to get on again. Sometimes if you feel you're connected and it just doesn't seem to be working right, what you're going to want to do is you just want to disconnect, say yes, and then just sign right back in with your username and password to the VPN by reopening it here. Those are just a couple quick common things people run into, either due to bad Wi-Fi, maybe they missed the prompt. The key thing is you can see you're connected and some data moving. We're not flashing right now, so you're not going to see a lot of data moving. So the next step, now that we're on the VPN, that's good. The next big key we're going to need is we're going to need to install the actual driver for the cable. This is missed a lot. We're going to step and move on to that next. Okay, now that we got the VPN connected, we're going to probably want to disconnect for now while we're doing the other stuff. If you're connected for too long, eventually you will get disconnected just due to a timeout to limit traffic. We don't want people connected to the VPN for hours on end. So it's just good to go ahead and disconnect until we're ready to actually flash. But now we've tested it, we're connected, we're good. So step one is done. The 3 big steps: VPN, driver, confirming the driver is installed, and getting the browser up and logged in. Then after that, it's just the flashing process. That's a whole other thing, and that should go smoothly. Everything should work great. Go check the instructions for more information on that you downloaded that this video is replacing for at least the install portion. So I'm going to disconnect. That way we're not bothering, hanging it up. That's how you end up with too many phantom connections if you forget to close that. And then eventually you get the invalid tunnel options error and you can't get in until it just clears out. Okay, so now we're going to do the cable. We are going to wait to plug it in. For dramatic sake and for you to understand for troubleshooting later, this is good to see. I'm going to go here, Device Manager. You can get here by right-clicking the PC and then Properties, Device Manager, or right-click, whatever. This is what I like to go and see for drivers and other things. They've had it around since Windows NT back in the late 90s. So it's what I'm used to. It's a very good way to see exactly what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and maximize it. The key thing we're going to be installing is USB, the actual black cable that we give you. So just for dramatic sake, like I said, so it says setting up Cheetah is what you normally see. I have this Device Manager window open so you can see what's going on. So what you actually have to do in here, since this thing needs to load as a serial port, we actually have to update the drivers manually. Windows 10, 7, 8, a lot of these newer 64-bit systems, they don't like the classic serial port converters, which the Cheetah is a version of that. So what we need to do is we need to browse the computer for driver software. If you had Windows XP or 2000, you just double-click that direct port installer, run that through, plug the cable in, good to go. Maybe unplug the cable one more time just to make sure, and then plug in. So as I previously mentioned with Windows Vista and 7 and then newer systems, 10, 8, it's a little more involved. So the next step, we have to select this. Let me pick from a list of available drivers on my computer. We're not hitting next. We got to click this. We got to go all the way to the bottom. Universal Serial Bus Controller. Have disk. Browse. I've already navigated to it, but where I went was Downloads, VPN. Sometimes there's multiple folders depending on how many times it's been zipped. And you'll see in here those folders we downloaded earlier is what I went to. And where we were working before, the 64-bit, this is a 64-bit computer. And then you'll see the driver, the CDM, and then FTDI bus. So I've selected it. USB serial converter. You can either double click and say yes, or click it and then hit next and say yes. So what this is just saying, hey, they don't know if it's compatible, they can't guarantee it. We know it works, been using it for many, many years. So yes, we want to continue. And now it says it's installed the USB serial converter. And now you'll see the USB serial converter here. And this changed to a USB serial port from Cheetah. One little thing just to make sure again that it's installed, even though this went cleanly. I've noticed it works a little better when you unplug it and plug it back in. You will notice this disappears. That's how you know that this is installed. So this is a good troubleshooting thing to check in case you're not watching the device manager when you do this. You'll watch when I unplug the cable, the black Cheetah cable, the flashing cable we sell you and provide, that this one will go away. These are part of this computer, so they stay. This will go away, that'll go away when I unplug. And it's unplugged. You'll see the other device is gone and the serial converter is gone. I'll plug it back in and you can see the serial converter is there and that's loaded, and that's fine. That's just how it works in these newer operating systems. So now we have the VPN, we installed it, we connected it, we tested it, it's good. We now have the driver for the cable installed and good, which is a huge problem that people seem to miss. So that's why we're making this video. Now the third and final thing you need is now we need to fire up the browser. So I can close this window out. As you can see, I'm reconnecting to the VPN. I accepted the message like I showed you previously. So now we need to get the browser installed. And that was in the other zip file that we got earlier. I already unzipped it. This one's pretty straightforward. You just install. So big three, VPN, working, connecting. And that's fine. That's just some Windows. It seems like every generation of Windows they get more errors and more prompts just to make sure you're not installing bad software. There we go. Just all the defaults. Just let it install. And you can see right now I'm just kind of checking at the VPN. It's running. It's usually best to just connect to it right before you're ready to pull up the browser. And this is reminding us to manually install the client, which is the driver for the cable. And we can hit finish and run it right now. You can always double click it here after the fact. We're going to go ahead and just leave that box checked, hit finish, and let it pull up. So as you can see, you got two new icons. The VPN, which we did earlier, and then the browser, which we just installed now, which needs the VPN to work. First time it loads, it takes a little bit. If you don't get this screen, maybe you'll get an error loading, because this is just a streamlined browser built off of Chrome. So if you get an error, you can't get this page, or it says can't find maybe an IP address over here, that means that some reason the VPN didn't connect right or not working. If you can't get this screen, you should just go here, disconnect, and then open it back up and sign back in. As you can see, this one works fine. But the big key is you need the VPN running, which is this, and signed in order to even pull up the browser. So the browser will not work unless you have the VPN. And then the browser is what you use to flash. So I'm just going to sign in just to wrap this video up. So you can do all this not on your car. Getting the driver installed and checking in Device Manager for it, get a VPN installed and connected and good, and then signing into the browser and making sure you're good to go. I would do all this in the comfort of your home before you even go to the car. So now the next step, once you know the driver's installed and everything works, the car should just detect your ECU and everything and go through the flashing process as per our other instructions that we provide. So check those documents on that, and make sure you read through all our documentation. Aside from this video, you'll see if you run into more problems that aren't in this video, there's some troubleshooting guides, and then here's the walkthrough after installing the software. So now we've got you all the way to the point. The software, you're signed in, you're good to go, you know the driver's good, you know you're on the VPN, this is running, you're awesome, you're so close. Now, if you just follow this to flash it, follow all the procedures, it should just flash cleanly. The biggest problem people run into when they're flashing is they go to program it, and you hit OK, and it can't detect the car. 99% of the time it's because you never got the driver installed right, but we've already done that. So just remember that. You'll see the light flashing on the cable once you hit OK. There's a red light, and you know it's talking to the car. So if it still can't communicate with the car, there's something going on with your car. Like I said, the rest of the instructions are here. Thousands of cars flashed at this point. This is a working process. Just please rewatch this video if you can't get to this point. Get signed in and pull that up. And like I said, this isn't going to work because I'm not even hooked to a car. Here we go. That's it. That's the video. Feel free to watch it again so you feel comfortable with everything that's involved. But basically the big key is we got to install a VPN, configure a VPN, log into the VPN, make sure we're connecting to the network here. And then you make sure the driver's installed so it'll connect to the computer. And then once the driver's installed and good and we verify it in the device manager, then we can pull up the browser and open it up. So moving forward, you don't have to obviously install things. All you're going to need to do is open up the VPN, connect it, plug the cable in, fire up the browser. So the first time is the hardest time because obviously you're installing things. But if you follow this video, you follow the procedures, you make sure everything works along the way. Obviously you can run into problems with your antivirus and other things that we have no control over. So if your computer is installed and running good, this will work. I just got this computer, it went smoothly. And just, be aware of any prompts, any other software maybe your computer doesn't have, like a .NET framework or something. It will prompt you. It will ask for things if Windows needs more things to run correctly. And like I said, be careful with firewalls. Be careful with on your computer and at home. A lot of your routers and stuff don't have VPN pass-through turned on. So you also got to remember about that. That's another big reason you won't connect to the VPN. Once again, we have no control over that. That you need to log into your router from your internet provider or whoever gave you your Wi-Fi access point router. So these instructions will work if you have good network connectivity, VPNs are allowed, and you have a good running version of Windows without malware or whatever. But just keep in mind, if you feel like it's getting blocked for firewalls, antivirus software, or your router, that your internet service provider provided, whether it be Comcast, Charter, Time Warner, whatever, they will sometimes turn that off in the device they install in your home. So you got to check into VPN pass-through. That's another thing we run into a lot if you don't get on the VPN. But once you're on the VPN, you're good to go. It should just go right through once the driver and the browser are installed. Thank you very much.